Thank you, Mr. Letta, for being here with Business Planet. You've spent months touring Europe, speaking to people about the single market. Tell me, how did your expectations differ from what you actually observed? What were some of your standout surprise observations?
The most important one was the experience that I had traveling around Europe. I wanted to travel by high-speed train because high-speed train is the most green way to travel, and Europe is a small continent, is the smallest continent in the world. We decided to go green, so my first idea was to say, okay, I have to visit all the 27 capitals, I have to go green, so I have to take the train. And in reality, it is impossible to travel by high-speed train in Europe. You can travel by high-speed train in Europe, but within countries, not connecting capitals. There's just Paris, Brussels, Amsterdam. And so I started from there, from this experience. So I was obliged to fly and not to take the high-speed train. And by saying that, it's emblematic of the problem of the single market. Things are going well within countries, so there's this domestic, this national environment that pushes for competition, for effectiveness, good performances. But when it comes to connect countries among them, then borders are still there. And with the world of today bigger than yesterday, these borders are a big obstacle to competitiveness for the European Union. So I started from here. It was fantastic because I didn't perceive before the journey that topic, and I used this topic also in presenting the report to the leaders at the European Council meeting.
It's quite a sort of concrete illustration. So you talk in your report about the need for an overhauled, a new single market. Why is that? What's wrong with the single market we have?
For a very simple reason related to the change of the world around us. When Jacques Delors launched the single market, Soviet Union was there, Germany wasn't reunificated, China and India together were 4% of world GDP. The European Union name was European Communities. We were 10 when everything started. Today, the world is totally different. First of all, China and India together are 25% of the world GDP. We are 27. The European Union has a currency that is, for a large part of the Union, the single currency. The world around us is different. Russia's aggression to Ukraine changed everything. But of course also the economic challenge from China, from the BRICS, relationships not always very, very good with the US. We had the years of Trump that were very complicated. We are waiting, holding breath for November elections. So yeah, there's a totally different geopolitical dimension, and this completely different scenario around us, environment around us, is obliging Europe to change and to move in the direction, first of all, to scale. That is the first big problem. In a world that is today bigger, I use this term, Europe is always a good mix between big and small. And I like Europe as mix between big and small. The small, we have to help the small. There are in the report many proposals for SMEs, but the small is there and will stay. The problem is the big, because the big of today has to be bigger in relationship and in comparison with the big of yesterday. The big of yesterday was in competition with different dimensions at world level. The big of today and tomorrow has to be bigger, because the dimension of China, of the US, the BRICS has completely changed, India. So this is why I took 3 subjects, the sectors that sort of leftovers of the Delors period, because member states decided to keep the 3, energy, telecom and financial services, for them and not for the single market. And it's not by chance that there, financial services, telecom, the lack of competitiveness is really crucial today.
I want to come back to the small companies, the SME companies, a little bit further along in the interview. You talk about the telecoms, finance and energy, integrating these into the single market. Do you think there's the political will to do that? There must be vested interests. There must be a reason why they're not already part of the market, and I guess it's not easy.
It is different depending on the sector. I feel today a general common awareness on telecom. Nobody today is defending the present situation. The present situation is totally out. We are having 100 telecom operators in Europe, fragmented. In each country, 3, 4, 5 operators. In the US, there are 3. In China, each operator are more than 467 million clients. I think we have to continue protecting consumers, as we do usually in Europe, very well. But we can find a solution that can be intermediate between 100 and the 3 they have in the US. I think we can find, 20, 30. It will be the market to decide. But it's the way to scale and at the same time to keep the protection of consumers. It is possible, and the awareness of the need to move on telecom, I think, is broad, is shared. Energy is more complicated because the energy mix, the national energy mix that is guaranteed by the treaties, is creating a situation where, of course, the differences are very, very big among countries. It's not easy. I put the attention and I raise the need for interconnections, first of all, infrastructures for energy. It's not easy, but we have to go. The main problem, in my view, is the topic of financial services, because the lack of a European well-performing financial market and well-integrated financial market is one of the reasons of the lack of competitiveness of Europe. Our 27 financial markets are not enough integrated, not enough attractive. They are too small, and the American market is having a sort of pull effect. That is one of the main problems in the last years, and it will be a problem for the future. So this is why I launched the idea of the Savings and Investment Union. That is the way to link an integrated financial market to the big need on how to finance the transition. The transition is the green, digital, and just transition is our great common choice. We have to keep this choice and we have to go in that direction. But we have to be serious by saying how to finance it. Otherwise, it will be not serious. And people will say to the leaders, you say we go green, you say it will be costly, and you don't say anything on how to finance it.
We've seen the farmers' protests, haven't we? We've seen how things are moving to the right, how people are fearful over how much net zero is going to cost them. I guess this is really at the heart to provide a substantial and significant and sort of transparent funding for this.
You know, farmers, if we continue not answering the question how to finance the transition, farmers will be the first of a long sequence of people protesting. Next one will be the workers in the automotive industry. Then you will have other workers, other business people, other citizens. This is why I think the main question and the most important answer for the next years, for the next legislature, is how to finance the transition. And this is why I put on the table the idea of the Savings and Investments Union. Not because I think that the transition has to be financed only with private money. The transition is a public good, so we need private and public money. But to unblock the negotiation among the 27 member states that are today divided on how to finance the transition, part of the countries want a new next generation EU, part they don't. The only way is to be serious in creating a big pillar of private money. And this big pillar of private money can come only from the integration of the single market in financial services and the creation of a bridge. There are many proposals in the report on how to create an incentive between savings and how to finance the transition. If we are not able to do so, our savings will continue to go to the US to finance and to feed the American economy. We have to keep our savings here, but we have to attract savings from abroad. If we are able to put these incentives and making them working, I think it will be good also for the possibility to strengthen our financial market, and it will help the agreement on the public investment leg that is necessary.
You talk about the money going to the US. The US is also completely overtaking Europe along with China when it comes to competitiveness. How far behind has Europe fallen, and is this a trend that can be reversed or mitigated?
I think it can be reversed, otherwise it would have been impossible for me to write the report. I'm very optimistic, but I start from a very strong red alarm. The big red alarm is the fact that the gap is growing with US first. The gap is growing in terms of competitiveness, in terms of innovation, skills, the use of artificial intelligence, and we need to relaunch on different aspects. Some of them are related to the single market integration. I mentioned financial services. There are many others. There's another key issue related to the single market, that is the single market was created by Jacques Delors in the 80s, and it was based on 4 freedoms: freedom of movement of goods, services, capitals, and persons. It is very, I would say, 20th century economy based. It is what you touch, what is tangible. In reality, even Jacques Delors, at the end of his mandate, said it would be necessary to discuss about a 5th freedom. So I took this idea of Jacques Delors and I developed it, and I decided to have it as first chapter of my report. I have to tell you that at the beginning of my journey, it was one of the ideas. Then, having meetings around Europe among the 65 cities I visited, many young people, start-uppers, telling me that we want to go into the US. Europe is not the place where we can develop our ideas. Meetings in research centers, innovation centers, the problem of the telecom, artificial intelligence with all the difficulties we have. So I decided to put this chapter at the beginning of the report. 5th freedom is the way to complete the Delors architecture and to strengthen today's big need for the European Union, that is how to I would say, relaunch our capacity that was in the 80s the big flag and the flagship for the European Union, and that is not anymore.
So it's freedom for innovation, research, education. What would this sort of concretely change? Can you give me an example of something that would be able to happen if this was a 5th freedom?
I give you a very concrete example. We launched some years ago the idea of the European universities. Consortium of universities, 8, 9, 10 universities, many cities around Europe. In the different consortium, there are 60 European universities in Europe. We have to scale in terms of financing this consortium, and we have to create a system in which university professors, scholars, students, researchers are not going always in the same direction, from east to west and from south to north. We have to create a circularity. We have to create incentives to help scholars and students to go from Paris and Berlin to the peripheric regions of Europe, and to move in the possibility to, I would say, to make possible that research in Europe grow up everywhere, but in a connection with this network of European universities. The same has to be done for research activities, where it is absolutely necessary to scale. One topic that I decided to put in this fifth freedom reflection is space. Space, we are lagging behind on space. And on space, we have many opportunities. So the need to clarify, to relaunch, to integrate more, to scale even on space. The same on artificial intelligence. So there's a set of initiatives. Politically, my suggestion to the next president of the European Commission is to nominate a vice president responsible for the fifth freedom. So being able to raise this flagship as the most important for the next Commission.
One of the fil rouge, the underlying theme of your report is this sense of urgency, that things really do need to happen. The time for talking is coming to an end. How serious is this? I mean, what would happen if things don't progress at the speed that you would like to see? What's at play?
We will decline, I think, very shortly. This is what is happening. I use the term inertia means decline for Europe. And I'm a great believer of this idea. Inertia means decline. Is the demonstration that the single market as it is today, it is not enough. Because it was conceived for a world that is no more there. The world of tomorrow needs a different single market with a big boost in the direction that I mentioned, scale, first of all, integration of the leftovers, and add another big point that is a single market for all. That is maybe one of the main issues for the European people.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the other things I wanted to touch on was the problem for SMEs. You say that SMEs just don't benefit, and people in some areas of Europe just don't benefit in the same way that bigger companies and more, you describe as cosmopolitan people do. Can you explain what you mean by that, and what would have to happen for SMEs to benefit more from the single market?
I launched a proposal. The proposal is the idea of the 28th district, of the 28th regime. There are some ways, different ways to say. What is the idea? The idea is that for an SME today, it's very difficult to take advantage of the single market. Why? Because the single market is big and it is fragmented. For an SME, you need to have a legal office, a taxation office, and if you are an SME, it's not easy to have 20 people in your legal office or 20 people in your taxation office to allow you to go around in 27 different taxation systems, in 27 different legal systems. So the idea is, starting from the legal environment, is to create a sort of master key, a sort of passepartout. One legal system, a 28th legal system, that is a sort of another European country, a virtual European country, with his own system, legal system. You are an SME, you choose this one. And then you can avoid to change every country with every legal system. Your choice on the 28th district is valid for all the European Union, and that allow you to avoid all this. First of all, to simplify. It's a great tool in terms of great path in terms of simplification. You know very well that today the problem of the single market is also over-regulation, how to simplify, how to be less bureaucratic. This is a very concrete proposal, and I can tell you that I was, when I presented in the last days, I'm starting to present the report everywhere in Europe, I was impressed by the fact that for the SMEs it is really an interesting tool, but I was impressed also because I presented in the US the report. I was impressed because in the US that point about the 28th district was considered the most interesting part of the report. Oh. For people coming from abroad, thinking that there's one Passepartout, and through this Passepartout you go everywhere in Europe, it's a great incentive. Europe is complexity. Of course, is our richness, the fact that we have 24 languages, 27 different systems, but it's complicated too.
It actually sounds like a really interesting idea, yeah. Finally, I wanted to ask you that I've heard the report described as new but not novel. Do you think that things, I mean, I guess many of the things that you've touched on have been spoken about before, have been touched on before. Do you think this time things will be different? Do you think there's a will to make some of the recommendations of your report actually happen?
I was impressed by the meeting I had with the European Council leaders. You know very well that the European Council usually doesn't meet any non-member of the European Council. So it was unusual, exceptional. It was exceptional to be there for 2 hours and to discuss on the different details of the report. It was for me the demonstration of the total awareness of the leaders, of the problem of the lack of competitiveness, the problem of the lack of integration of the single market as part of this problem of competitiveness, and the need to accelerate and to go to have a deep dive into all these decisions. I was impressed also by the determination of the next presidency, the Hungarian presidency, that decided formally to use the report as a big part of their program for the next semester. And the semester presidencies are decisive. I had the opportunity to work on this report. First of all, thanks to the Belgian presidency. They supported me very much, but also the previous one, the Spanish presidency. Fantastic work from the Spanish presidency. And I have to say also the Swedish one, first semester of 23, they rose the single market as one of the most important parts. So I think that also what Ursula von der Leyen said clearly about the report and the single market as part of their idea of the future, the same the other candidates that are today running the electoral campaign. I had a meeting with Nico Schmid, the commissioner, the present commissioner, but also one of the most important Spitzenkandidaten. And I'm very happy to see that all these discussions today are part also of the public debate during the electoral campaign. So I am optimistic. I think it can happen. Of course, we have to sort of cherry picking because the single market is everything. So you find their report is 147 pages. So it's huge. But I think some of them can be implemented very fast. And the urgency, as you said, is really there.
Enrico Letta, thank you very much.
Thank you.